Russian oligarch versus American wealthy businessman. 1. The Russian oligarchs took fully functional oil companies that belonged to the Soviet Union. Like or dislike people like Bezos and Musk, it isn't like Amazon and Tesla were fully formed government assets just stolen by the two. 2. Wealth and power in Russia is an order of magnitude more concentrated than the US. The rich in Russia are far richer than average Russians than anything you see in the US, but Musk, et al. See point 3. And in terms of raw power, the rich in the US aren't anything like the power of the rich in Russia. Trump says mean and childish things about his political opponents. Putin literally kills them. You might feel powerless here, but it isn't like Elizabeth Warren faced poisoning or imprisonment while Trump was president. 3. We don't even know how rich Putin is.
He is believed by many to be the richest man in the world despite never having started a company, always having worked in government, and being in a far poorer country overall than the US. The simple fact that no one but Putin knows just how much he owns, all looted from Russia, should tell you all you need to know. 4. Russia has no real rule of law. Oligarchs there aren't just criminals in the sense they are rich guys taking advantage of the poor and lobbying for unfair taxes and labor laws. Many of them are directly tied into Russian criminal organizations that would put Epstein to shame. Russian oligarchs are just as likely to employ people involved in hijacking shipments as to own companies doing the shipping.
Oversimplified explanation, but basically, back when the Soviet Union was a thing, the communist government owned everything. When the Soviet Union collapsed, a few dozen government officials, one of which being Vladimir Putin, just kinda kept everything, all the factories, utilities, etc., and nobody really seemed to notice or care. So it's not like in America where you can point to a person like, say, Jeff Bezos and say, this person started a business from basically nothing and spent decades building it up into this huge empire. Virtually all wealth in Russia was essentially looted from the defunct government. In other words, what people think happens in America is what actually happened in Russia.
It's a term for rich people in Russia who get their wealth after the privatization of public goods in the 90s. The term comes from oligarchy, which means a small, privileged group of people has the power in governing.
It's a little more blatant in Russia. Like a bit more blatant. Putin is likely the world's richest man. The US president doesn't have skyrocketing wealth when they take office. There is a subtle difference. Theoretically, it's possible to be very wealthy in the USA without direct connections to high-level politicians. Not possible in Russia.
I was always under the assumption that oligarch was the Russian version of legitimate businessman, both meaning that they had ties to organized crime but were trying to put on a facade of just being a business owner. I know it's hip to vilify the rich in America in general. But if you think rich businessmen in America have the same kind of relationship and partiality with the state as Russian oligarchs, you are crazy. The state literally privatized entire industries and handed them to people as one small example. It'd be like if I took Shell Oil and said, here you own this now, and by the way I'm making your competition illegal. Now America ain't no saint. But you're off your rockers if you think Western businessmen are even remotely comparable to Russian oligarchs in how much of an iron fist they're ruling their respective population with. Well, this is a shit show between people attempting to explain the reason behind the difference in names and what seems like a brigade of leftists and bad actors attempting to obfuscate it to make it seem like they are the same thing, just with different names for reasons. Oligarchs aren't businessmen. Their fortunes were literally handed to them, either because they were close friends or relatives.
Businessmen earn or build, oligarchs are given.
No one goes around killing the non-Russian ones when it becomes politically convenient to do so. Because these businessmen were given the country's most valuable money-generating entities for Literally 1 ruble, because they were close friends of the kleptocrat of the day. Nothing was earned or competitive. Pure nepotism to the absolute cost of the average Russian. US businessmen don't fully have government in their pockets. They have a lot of influence. Yes. But they couldn't stop a determined American population from pushing change. It's our apathy and conservatism that enables big companies to have their way. Russians, however, could not overpower oligarchs without breaking the law. It'd take mass civil disobedience or violence to enforce change in Russia. Compare Indian tycoons and Japanese zaibatsu with Chinese billionaires.
Russia is on a whole different level of corruption.
Call me when Biden assassinates Bezos or Musk, up. The people who are answering that the difference is just big government hiding capitalist interest are very wrong. There is a fundamental difference between the way an oligarchy functions. You get to direct influence and receive benefits from the government apparatus, and you are in effect the equivalent of a feudal duke or lord. And the way America functions, you spend large amounts of money funding lobbying groups who have to influence numerous political actors within parties in order to pass legislation. Neither is good. But equating the two is either dishonest or wrong. If American businessmen operated like oligarchs, Musk could effectively tell the president to nationalize and then give him FedEx and it would happen. American businessmen are still somewhat bound by the system, it just favors them hugely. Oligarchs write the system and change it when it suits them, or break it when it doesn't. The billionaires in Russia have a direct connection to Putin and help make the decisions for the government and country. For the most part here in the US, billionaires have immense influence and power, but not always direct connection to the president, except for when Trump was in office. So they have to do things the old-fashioned way by paying lobbyists to get what they want. The end result is the same, but different steps are taken. Overall, not a huge difference. That being said, Up is saying 2 people ended up in the same location, therefore their journey must have been the same. Much of the difference in how we use the terms reflects how they came to be in the position they are. How that wealth was earned. Some Russian oligarchs got their money through smuggling goods and black market trade. Other oligarchs were chosen by the government to lead privatized versions of previously public entities under the former USSR. This would be like if the government owned Twitter and then sold it to Elon for a negligible amount. Loyalty to Putin. Many have had to explicitly express support for the Kremlin in order to maintain their power. In the US, Bezos' wealth isn't contingent on him publicly endorsing our president. In this case, oligarchs don't so much have lawmakers in their pocket, as much as they are in the pocket of Putin. Nepotism definitely exists in the West as well, but to a slightly lesser degree. Our last administration was quite literally a family and friends organization though. Please Lord, don't let the Russians go nuclear. They more nuclear bombs than any country in the world. Now that's powerful.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. TooAfraidToAsk is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.